Hello, it's Tony here again with another panel, couple of panels I suppose, one for the left and the right monitors in the usual way. This time it's for the Beechcraft Baron G58 from Microsoft Flight Sim. So this is one I've just recently done, didn't take too much time. It was mainly the switch panel and a few other little sundry bits and pieces. And I'm going to do a similar job for the Bonanza. That's a very similar, scarily similar actually. I guess from the same manufacturer. One's obviously this one's a twin. That one's a single engine. But yeah, it's a nice plane. I'd already previously done an analog panel for the Baron and for the Bonanza that I used to fly in. Well, I still do fly in X-Plane 11. But I see that as I'm recording this video today, the X-Plane 12 early release has just come out. So that will be another interesting video or two that we'll see on some of that and have a look at the compatibility between Air Manager and it and my panels and instruments and see how we go with Air Manager and X-Plane 12. Anyway, we're digressing. Let's get into what we're having a little look at here, which are these Beechcraft Baron G58. So the G58 is obviously G for, well, I don't know what the G's for. Maybe it's just an iteration, as in the old model was that I did some panels for before was a B58. So maybe it's just an iteration, or maybe it's G for G1000. I'm not really sure. Anyway, these are G1000 based. These G58s, and so here is a G58 with a G1000, the new switch panel as I mentioned, and some standby instruments and some other sundry items, gauges and park brake, cowl flaps, dimmers, trims, etc. So let's get into it. Let's power up very quickly. I've just put in a quick flight plan here from Cork to Kerry. The weather's not looking too clever. And this is very early morning here, so I think what we'll do is we'll just have a quick look at the panel lighting probably first, seeing as we're or perhaps what we'll do is we'll get the engines going first. So let's get the fuel selectors on. You see these fuel selectors, they come straight out of the B58, so I didn't have to redo those at all, didn't touch that instrument. We have a successful left engine start and the right. Just up the RPM just a little bit. Yep. Let's get those alternators on. And the avionics. Should have had the beacon on already. Not really following the checklist here. We will just open those cowl flaps while we're on the ground. You can see I've put a quick little flight plan in there. I think it's only about 40 or so nautical miles, and it takes us, well, not it's directly past Blarney Castle, but Blarney Castle is just not quite off the end of the runway, but not far off the end of the runway here at Cork. So we'll take off in that direction, and we'll take in Blarney Castle, and then get back onto our course line and fly over to Kerry. So let's have a quick look at the lighting then very quickly. So the lighting on these panels, I've shown on some of the other panels. I don't always show it in detail, but it will get progressively lighter as it gets the daylight gets lighter, although it's quite an overcast day, looks like it in Cork today. And obviously when you get to dusk, they will progressively get darker as the ambient light in the sim dims down. So we're taking in a few factors there to do that dimming, and then obviously you can put the artificial lighting that's built into the aircraft for the background instrument lights. Now we're probably a little bit too light here, so what I'll probably do is just go back a little earlier than 7:15, and we can always come back to this thing. And there you go. You can just see they're pretty dark now, the panels, and we can turn the panel lighting on. Let's turn that on, and you can see the backlit panels are illuminated there, so the lines and the text there around the switch panel, and we can adjust the brightness of those with the dimmer that's labelled sub panel lighting. So we can turn that down. You see all of that text, including the text that's over the top of the dimmers themselves, plus the text that's around the flaps and the cowl flaps and the parking brake and then switch, all the graphics on the switch panel too. So that's a nice little touch. And then the standby instruments, which includes the 3 standbys to the right of the MFD there, and the two little instruments below the G1000 audio panel there on the left hand side panel, the prop amps and the de-ice. We can have a quick look at the prop amp and the de-ice. So turn the prop amp on, get the needle coming up there. That's the electrical heating for the prop, and then we get the boots pressure for the surface de-ice as well. That's the standby. The flight instrument lights, that is the flight instruments themselves, so the PFD and the MFD. You see they're getting dimmer there, and then we can make them brighter as well. And then we have the instrument flood. Now for the instrument flood we need the floodlight light on, and then that dimmer will adjust the brightness of that panel, which is simulating like a light within the cabin itself, providing some illumination down onto the instrument panel. Now whether that be an overhead light or a light sometimes under the glare shield, like to provide illumination across the panel, whatever that form may take, it's pretty much the same across most of my panels. There's always some kind of light that will illuminate the panel, whether they call it flood or glare shield, whatever the terminology for the era of the aircraft. This particular one is called flood, and that just provides that general flood illumination, and there's a means to adjust the brightness of that as well. So we can turn them off for the minute. The panel one will probably keep on because we're not that bright yet. We'll go back to the time that I think we had at the start, which I think was about 7:15, wasn't it? Whoops. Get as close to that as we can. 7:15, there we go. So that's the panel lighting. I think what we'll do is give ourselves one stage of flaps, and then I think it's time to put the taxi light on and get out of here. Release that parking brake. As always, these Microsoft parking spots, you always leave you tight in, and the turning circle of some of these default airplanes is never that great. I've had to modify a couple of them because the taxi performance on the ground was just shocking. I mean, really bad. I mean, you can use toe brakes, but I mean, there's only so much. Some of them, they got the turning circle of a cross-channel ferry. Pardon that terminology if you're not familiar with what a cross-channel ferry is. Well, obviously you must know what a ferry is, but cross-channel, that's a UK-France thing, meaning the little stretch of water between the UK and France, known as the English Channel. But I guess the same applies to any ferry, really. Not very good turning circle. So looking clear on the runway here. Just as we're about to enter, we'll get those strobes on. Rather funky livery we're in here. Just one of the default ones, but this one with the flames across the nose and down the sides. You can probably see it there. We're just using this turning area here at the end of the runway. This is always nice when they put these in. Guess it depends on the size of the aircraft that they got coming to these fields. But yeah, you'd probably struggle to turn an Airbus round just on the width of the runway, although it is a reasonably wide runway. Funny S-shaped turn. Don't need all of that in this relatively small Baron. Okay. But let's get that parking brake on quickly. We can probably close those cow flaps now. Let's get the fuel boost pumps on in the takeoff. Landing lights on. Taxi light off. Nav strobe on. We'll get the pitot heat on as well. We're about to take away. Let's sync up the heading. And we'll have an altitude of about 3,000, I think. Okay, you can see our course there. So we're just going to go off to the right a little bit, have a look at Blarney Castle, and then we'll get back onto that course and make our way over to Kerry. So we've got the flaps selected. We're good to go. Let's release those brakes. There's rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. You see I've turned points of interest on here, so there's the point of interest for Blarney Castle just off the left of the nose there. Just make it a little bit easier to find. I think we'll have our flaps up now as well. So I won't try and get too much speed up here or gain too much altitude. We can actually have a look at Blarney Castle here, and then we'll get back on track and we'll have a little talk about the Baron panels. All a bit impromptu, this. Really done any special planning for this flight. There's the Blarney Castle tag. So there's a couple of buildings here. There's one. I had a look on the way into Cork when I landed here. there's that building just to the left of where you see the tag there. Probably can't make that out that well. And then there's the tag that's actually labelled Blarney Castle itself. There it is. There's that building just over the back there. That is Blarney Castle. 500. That's the one where people lay on their back, upside down, and kiss the Blarney Stone. Never been there or done that myself, but I know that's a thing that people do. So let's get back on course. Get right back on course where we need to be. So we've got about 1.5, just over 1.5 miles off track here. So it shouldn't take us long to get back on track. Now's a good time to put the autopilot on. It'll continue climbing up to our pre-selected altitude of 3,000 feet, which we're almost there anyway, so it should start leveling off, and you can just see the course coming in there as we start to intercept. So we'll select nav mode, and it should start the turn to intercept. There we go. So while we're almost established in the cruise here, we'll just bring those props back a little bit. Should have done that a little bit earlier really, but a bit too much. I think to be a little bit out of sync here, so I'm just going to go up. I've got a rather crude prop control here, hence my struggles to get it where I want. That's not too bad, just over 2300. We'll put the sync on. I don't know if that will help. I want to keep them in. No, they're still a little bit out, aren't they? Oh, they're getting closer, that's better. Yeah, that will help with the noise as well. Okay. So now we're well and truly established, let's have a little look at these panels. So there's not much to them really. It's quite a nice clean looking panel. I guess the G1000 helps simplify it somewhat in terms of you know, number of instruments and whatnot, but you've got the two screens that you typically get on a GA of this type with a G1000. Just a single MFD and a single PFD and an MFD with the audio panel, and then there's some 3 standby instruments just as a backup to the G1000 system over on the right hand side there. So you've got your airspeed, your attitude and your altimeter. The attitude was something that I had to do a little modification to, so I've got a generic attitude indicator which I'm using in this aircraft and some of the others, but it didn't have a pull to cage knob on it. It was something that I've not needed for any of my Air Manager panels to date, but this particular aircraft does have a pull to cage, as do several other aircraft, but it's not something I've seen in the sim that much. Well, certainly not until now. So that was something I had to add. I had to add the pull to cage knob. Luckily, there's controls for that, so I was able to set up some controls for the pull to cage, and it actually works quite nicely. So I've set that up as a user property, and so what we're able to do is just select, if you want, because it's a generic instrument, I'm able to set that up in different aeroplanes and either tick or not tick. It's literally just a tick box to say, do I want pull to cage or don't I, and it will include the knob or not include it. Same for the reference, the symbolic aeroplane reference. You can adjust that to set you know, where you want your pitch reference to be in relation to the aircraft. So you can adjust that on some of these AHs. There's a knob in the middle for that. This aircraft doesn't have one, but again, I've made that a user property now, whereas that was just a standard part of the aircraft, because every aircraft that I'd put this instrument in had that, so I didn't bother making it an option. But now I've made it an option simply because I can keep it the same instrument and now just either tick or not tick those options. So that's the beauty of the user properties within Air Managers. You can add those things in, as many as you want, and you can soon get multiple combinations of the same instrument, but with different functionality. So they appear as different instruments, but actually for Air Manager purposes it's just a single instrument. It's just easier to manage like that and just have those things enabled or not enabled by that user property selection. And then on the right hand side panel, I guess that's really the main elements of it. You can see there's a no smoking placard and another placard talking about the utility doors. There's an ELT, that's a functional ELT switch, and the sound that goes off when you activate it. And then down on the lower part of the panel there's the flap switch, which is straight out of the B58, and a rudder trim and an aileron trim controls, along with the dimmers that I showed earlier with the lighting. And that's pretty much it for the right hand side panel, so not too much going on that right hand side panel, and a little bit more on the left side panel, not too much. Again, the G1000 and its audio panel front and center, and then below that the main part of that is the switch panel and the couple of analog gauges that we had a quick look at earlier. Just below those are the cowl flap levers and the parking brake. So the switch panel itself is backlit, as you saw, and so it's a nice little feature there with the backlit of the lighting for you know, working under darker lighting conditions. Should be getting lighter here, but slowly I think it is. There's the gear lights, the gear lever itself, a little trim. Oh, that's the trim control is actually not part of the switch panel. My apologies. That's a separate little instrument on its own, as is the parking brake that you can just see right next to it there. And so on the switch panel is all the main stuff. I had to do a separate one here from the B58 one for this G58, because the switch panel one looked cosmetically different, and some of the switches and the arrangement of the switches, particularly around the de-ice, the anti-icing switches and systems, were a little different. So I decided to do another switch panel. I did base it on the B58 one, but it was enough different that I decided to make another one. So you've got a couple of battery masters in this particular aircraft, and an alternator, one for each engine, an Avionics master and a prop sync, and then the fuel boost pumps, which can now come off. That's reminded me. There's a pitot heat, only a single one. I think the B58 had two. That's why there's a blanking piece there, as there is in the sim modelled aircraft. And then the other anti-ice controls: fuel vent, stall warning heat, prop heat, windshield de-ice, and surface de-ice, which is the boots, the rubber boots that inflate, which is why you've got a pressure gauge for that. And then below that, the normal mag rotary switches, and then a bank of switches for the lights. So you've got your ice light, your strobe light, your beacon, your nav light, your flood and panel lights for the interior lights, a taxi light and two landing lights, which again don't need to be on. We'll turn them off for the moment, although we have just started the approach here, so we're going to be coming up on this turn in a minute and coming into Kerry. So by the time I've finished talking about the panel, we should be on our approach, and hopefully the G1000 will load us in for that. And I didn't actually check whether or not, because I did it via the sim. I'm just going to have a quick look and see what we've got. Yeah, so Rotso is the final approach fix. Okay, well, we can always switch over manually if not. But this is an ILS, so when you select these ILSs normally, it does transition over to the radio for the ILS after you come out of this GPS terminal phase. We're just turning on to the runway course now, and coming up to that final approach fix. So will it transition? Let me look at that flight plan again. Maybe it won't. Just in case it doesn't, I think what I'll do, should have prepared for this. ILS runway 26 is 108.7. Oh, it's put the frequency in the G1000 for me, so that's good. We're just coming up on the final approach fix now, and I don't think that flight plan, that's the problem with doing it via the Microsoft menu. I should have entered it on the G1000 really, but never mind. What we can do is we can just sync that head in quickly, Turn the CDI off. Put us back into heading mode. And then (1087). We'll toggle that into nav1. You can just see the glide slope coming in there. I wonder if I'm going to catch that. I'm going to be too high now for approach mode. Yeah, no, it's got the localizer, but it's missed the glide slope. You see, I was just a little bit too late there. It's just, we've just gone above the glide slope. So what I'm going to have to do is wind the altitude down and come down on VS reasonably aggressively. Get those landing lights on now. Bring those props back up. And we're just under the landing gear extension speed, so we'll have our gear down as well. Glide slope's just beginning to come up now. And there we go, we're back on track. The autopilot has locked onto that glide slope now. Oh, we'll have some flap as well. And then we'll just manage our speed, keep above the blue line for this approach until we're sure to make the runway.
500.
Should have had the pumps on again, I think, for landing. Like I said, not following the checklist here, just quick flight, show off the panels, and we'll be done. I don't normally bother with the landing because it was just lucky that it was short enough. A little bit low on speed there, as I was too busy talking. But we're easily going to make the runway. And there you have, welcome to Kerry. Clean the aircraft up. I'm not that familiar with Kerry either, so better have a look at the taxiways. It looks like there's just one main taxiway. I don't think that first one is anything. Take that pitot heat off now. Just about to exit here. Don't think we need those landing lights on anymore. We'll get the taxi light on. Now we've exited the runway, we'll turn that strobe off as well. Strange round vehicle parked right in the way there, as per usual. We seem to be in the most strangest of positions in this particular simulator. A little bit off angle there, but that'll do. For the purposes of this, so that's a nice little short flight in the G1000 variant of the Baron, the Beechcraft Baron G58 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like I said at the beginning, I think I did, I'm probably going to do a similar deal for the Bonanza, which is a very similar setup. Albeit just for a single engine, and then I don't know what panels are going to be after that. I'm going to have a little think about what I'm going to do. I've still got the Cessna 310 and the BN2 Islander to take a look at. X-Plane 12 early release is out as well, so there'll be some interesting things in there, I'm sure, that might take my interest. So we'll see where we go with starting work on the next panel. But I'm just it's sort of in the process of catching up with a backlog of videos that I haven't done for a while. I've got a few panels completed and just haven't shown them really. So I thought I'd share it with everyone and let you see what I've been up to. And then maybe when I've done a few more panels and I'm in the depths of I'm starting on another one that maybe will take a bit of time, we might get into some more tutorials again. So there you have it. That is the Beechcraft Baron G58. I hope you liked it. Please, if you did, click that like button and be sure to subscribe for some more videos. See you again soon. Thanks. Bye.